Back in, I think it was the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, when the Pope at that time said that he reviewed things and he said that there really was never any St. Christopher. Now you got all these millions of Catholics driving around with St. Christopher statues on their, remember those? Used to have them up on their dashboard. St. Christopher. One woman got so mad, she said, she was listening to the radio and she heard the Pope say, there's no St. Christopher. Right then, her statue fell off the dashboard, jammed down on the accelerator, and caused an accident. And she said, she realized right then and there, the Pope is not infallible. Well, really, doesn't it knock out the infallibility thing? First he's there, then he's not. And she was so mad about it. Oh, that can't be right, that can't be right. You can't insult St. Christopher. That's right. She carried the young child, Jesus, on his shoulders across a stream or some kind of crazy legend like that. Halo around his head, magnet under his feet to hold him on the dashboard. You remember those, don't you? Yes. All of a sudden, they're worthless. After you sell millions of them, now they're worthless. They always were worthless. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything in heaven or on the earth or under the earth. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, but showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Well, but here it says, the people did not. How many of them? The rest of the men. Those that weren't killed in the plagues. That means everybody else refused to repent. Nobody repented. Verse 21 says, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Now that is going to really put a line of demarcation between you and everybody else, because when you reach a point where nobody's repenting anymore, nobody, and the Bible does say it will happen. That's why there's silence in heaven for that short period of time. Now, let's look at another verse, or a few verses regarding this. Let's go over to Romans chapter 9. And we're rapidly approaching this time. I'm telling you, we just... Did you ever notice the hypocrisy going on in the world? Here we've got this standoff with the Red Chinese out there over in Southeast Asia, naval standoff, because these Chinese were harassing one of our ships. And it was an unarmed ship, supposedly, and they were trying to force the Chinese off with a big fire hose. That really works against a warship, doesn't it? And so there was a big standoff and a big insult and all this. But they're over there in London, arm in arm. Hillary standing there, hat in hand, please buy more of our debt. The military standing off with each other, but they're over there shaking hands, smiling. They have a scheme in common, right? So you always have to have that. That kind of throws people off, doesn't it? You have to maintain the enemy status and at the same time unite the world. That's quite a job. And most people don't ask those questions. Remember back in the days of Richard Nixon? Red China was such, and they called it Red China back then. You never hear that anymore. It was Red China. And Red China was this evil, terrible, empirical, communistic empire, and it was just an awful thing. And trade embargoes and all this, and cut them off, have nothing to do with them. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes a ping pong match. Remember? Anybody remember that? I'm not the only old gaffer in here, am I? Huh? And all of a sudden there's a ping pong match. And we've got a ping pong team goes to China, and they're playing at this little table, boink, 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 boink. And all of a sudden we're friends again. The embargo's lifted. Over a ping pong game? And Coca-Cola, which was never allowed in Red China, Coca-Cola Company already had ships on the way to China loaded down with Coca-Cola and machines and the whole setup. They were moving in. Trade embargo lifted, even before the ping pong game came off. But that was all set up. You have to have some little nice little thing, that happens, and everything's forgotten. This has happened over and over and over again. And people still don't catch on, do they? You know why? Because they are literally pickled in the brine of deception. They are so preoccupied worshiping idols of gold and idols of silver and idols in Hollywood and all these different kinds of things and sports idols. And they are so preoccupied in the world that they cannot hear from God. And they get to the point where they will not repent. Not even one of them. Oh, what a time that's going to be. And that happens just prior to the Lord's return. Silence in heaven. Silence. A half an hour. A fraction of time where nothing is said at all. In Romans 9, it says in verse 27, Isaiah also crieth concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. Just a remnant. We hear about these promises of massive revival, where millions come in, and thousands will fill in the Madison Square Garden and the Coliseums, and all these decisions for Christ. I'm going to tell you make some people mad, but nobody was ever saved by a decision for Christ. We are saved by Christ's decision for us. You don't raise your hand and say, there, now I'm saved. I did it. Look at me. Hey. You've been in those services, I think. I've been in them where the pastor gets up there and he goes through his thing, and then he says, the pastor has preached, the choir has sung. Now it's all up to you. All up to you? If it was ever up to you, it was always up to you. Not up to you, it's up to God. And so they'll say, every head bowed, every eye closed. You ever been in one of them? They teach them that in the seminary. Every head bowed, every eye closed, and they put their head down, close their eyes. Now, if you want to be saved, lift your hand. Up goes the hand, right? And they got somebody back there with a notepad counting them, decisions for Christ. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 25 decisions for Christ, right? Then they take the offering, they divide that up, and they say, okay, it costs $39.50 to save a soul. They've done it! They put that hand up. Okay, I see the pastor. I see that hand. I see that hand. Did you ever hear that? I see that hand.
Nobody's looking.
Yeah, nobody look. Don't want to see anybody saved, Nobody look. Every head bowed, every eye closed. I see that hand. See, you know what that's like? That's like the lifeguard out on the beach. He's sitting up in that big chair, and there's somebody out there, and he's drowning out in the water and needs help. And so he puts his hand up, and the lifeguard just sits back and says, I see that hand. Huh? No, somebody better get to the rescue here and tell these people you need to repent, forsake the evil, obey the gospel. Let there be a true and a genuine conversion take place. Now, notice what it tells us in Romans 9.